hand is one of my information packages. She just walked by my protest. There she is looking at it. She just walked by my protest. And she has my information package in her hand. The first page is orange, as you can see. And I also told her that Michelle Audette took a fake honorary degree from St. Paul University at the exact same time as they erased me and expelled me after sabotaging my research and having set me up for the racism and sabotage since at least the summer of 2002. Okay, hi everybody. So I'm here. That's the human rights monument behind me there. Here on Elgin Street in Ottawa. I'm set up. Last time I realized you couldn't really read the words "my mind" on my last protest, so I fixed that up. And then over here, Steven Gaon's report is fake. So that's my view, as I explained last time. I'll link it below. And then this one says "change my mind." So you can see that I weatherproof. Maybe you can see it, I don't know. This one is now weatherproofed. So I do this thing with packing tape where like I have no budget and a lot of protesting to do. So then like I buy this poster board at the dollar store and I do, you know, my methods. So I have this method where I use packing tape and I start at the bottom and I put rows and upon rows so that when the rain hits it, it's sort of like it comes down and runs off like tiling on a roof, shingles, like roof shingles. So that one. I also have one of my other signs here today from last year. ADR Ottawa. So that's that's Steven Gaon's company, where he makes money off racism and discrimination, and does you know like botched half fake investigations, and then comes up with false findings and fake reports that don't exist. So that's alternative dispute resolution, and it's a scam, and it's not too far away from here. So instead of protesting outside his office as I did last year, I'm here at the Human Rights Building because I was harassed and intimidated by OPS detective Albert Stewart last year. And so that's the reason why, because Steven Gaon had filed a police report alleging criminal harassment, saying that he feared for his safety, even though there's no evidence that I'm a risk to anyone's safety and peaceful protest isn't harassment. So that's what happened last year. This is my iced matcha latte, so I very much like that. Also, you may be interested to know that Kim Pate stopped by my protest today. So I had just finished setting up, and bam, there she is standing right in front of me. So some of you who follow me may know that I know Kim Pate. I worked with Kim Pate for many years. I was president of the Elizabeth Fry Society in Sudbury, Ontario for some time. And I worked with that organization for a lot of years when I was a young leader, up and coming. Although I did start later than a lot of people. I am 48, as some people know, but I also had some challenges in my youth. And so then, you know, I didn't graduate university until 2010, for example, and all that kind of stuff. So all these, a bit of a late starter, always like a mature student, always like, you know, that sort of thing. So I was involved with the Elizabeth Fry Society for a lot of years. I no longer support any not-for-profits for the reasons that we've been seeing. They're all scams. And the staff and the boards are complicit, and they know, and I know this from experience, that it's all a revolving door, that, you know, there's never any change, and as a matter of fact, outcomes get worse for everyone. Okay, so there, you know, when I often, like, most of my work is around you know, First Nations and advocacy for survivors and that kind of stuff, and of course the outcomes for us are atrocious, and people are dropping dead left, right, and center. But it's like that for the homeless, it's like that for the incarcerated, and on and on and on and on. Kim Pate herself is a hypocrite, and that's why I developed those questions when I saw her at the AFN schmoozing recently at the AGM here in Ottawa, because she likes to pretend that she's an advocate for criminalized people when she's out here advocating for the criminalization of Canadians for asking reasonable questions about the cover-up of Indian residential schools. So that kind of hypocrisy is not okay with me. Anyway, so what I did is she stopped here, and I gave her one of my information packages. So I have those. I have a copy of my press release, and I have my information packages for interested Canadians. Some people are interested. I mean, not everybody that stops, like not even close to everybody. Like, I mean, this thing is like a lot of pages, right? I'm not saying like, you know, that everybody has, you know, people have their own problems. Everybody's trying to survive out here, okay? Like, and nothing is a surprise really to a lot of these people, okay? So then, but some people are interested to know, and so then I do have information for interested Canadians. You know, I feel like if you're going to be doing this kind of thing where you're calling people out in public, and you're doing this kind of protesting to raise awareness about their bad acts, that you should have some information, like, and you should have some evidence, and, you know, you should have that kind of stuff. You don't just make allegations without any evidence. And of course I do have that, and I meticulously documented it throughout all of this entire ordeal. And so then, like, for example, it's all here. Basically what they did to me at St. Paul University is in a playlist on my YouTube. And you can find snippets of it elsewhere, but it's all in one place, like together and in chronological order, in a playlist on my YouTube. My YouTube is at Migiza Media 25. So that's MIGIZI Media 25. That's my handle on YouTube. And there's 2 playlists on there. And the first one is this whole ordeal with St. Paul University, and and how they set me up for sabotage and racism, and the way that they you know, extracted $50,000 in tuition. They tried to ruin my academic reputation. It goes on and on and on. So anyway, like, this is all the first page is orange, because often, like last year especially, I was wearing my signs. Like, my signs are wearable on my body, like a fashion statement. And I was doing that last year, and, you know, I'd have bags, and I'm doing many things at once. I got a phone, all this kind of stuff. So, like, when the first page is orange, I can take, like, I know, like, it's easy for me to grab an information package, and, like, you know, the first page had been ripping off in my experience, and so then I know when that happens, because, like, the first page is supposed to be orange or a different color than white. Basically, I use different colors. Right now, these are orange. So anyways, like, they all have the YouTube links. Like, this basically takes you through the entire playlist, this information. And then these YouTube links, the link is there, and also QR code. So, like, say you were reading through this and you don't want to watch the entire playlist. Like, I don't even know how long it is. I don't, you know, if people are interested and it's relevant, and you want to do you want to understand what's going on, because what happened to me is typical. So, like, I mean, like, once you understand all of it, you can sort of, like, you put it together, what's happened to others or what may be happening to you, and so on, like that. But some people just want to see, like, one piece or another, and so then that's why it's all it's all listed here, like, you know, so that you could read as much or as little as you want, or view as much or as little as you want, all that kind of stuff. Try to make it easy for people, you know. I mean, it's a complicated thing. It went on for, like, you know, a long time, a few years, and so then, and it's still ongoing, because I still have no evidence of any real investigation or report that they say that justifies my expulsion. So I handed that to Kim Pate, who's a senator now, and you know, and people are rewarded with those positions for having sold their souls and all the rest of it, and guzzled the indignities, as I often say. And Kim Pate isn't very well liked in the advocacy community, even though all of them are really of questionable ethics. Still, she's not popular, and for a lot of reasons. There was ridiculous things that I saw over the years, and really, it's like in my last video, how I was saying that they use their internal processes, they weaponize them against each other. It's because this is a bloodbath out here, and it's like that in all the circles, right? So they're like, these fake jobs, anybody could. The models are not sustainable, right? And more Canadians are catching on all the time. And so then, people's jobs are like just hanging in the balance and all this kind of stuff. And they're fighting over money, they're fighting over positions, they're fighting over everything else. And they weaponize everything they can against each other and so on like that. And I saw a lot of that in these advocacy circles that I was, I started in trying to make a difference. And this is the thing that Indigenous youth need to know, is that you get these jobs or you get these volunteer positions or you get into these positions, whether they're paid or not, thinking that these are real jobs or real opportunities to make a difference, when that's not the case at all. So that's why it's important to understand, before you get caught up, because it's really traumatic to learn it the hard way. Okay, so now I'm gonna go through my press release, which I haven't changed since I launched this, I think it was last week, the last Friday. So then that day was July 24th. And so then on that day, it was exactly 1 year after an expulsion letter I had received. Anishinaabe MMIWG survivor demands full investigative report from ADR Ottawa and St. Paul University. Again, ADR Ottawa is Steven Gaon's fake company. So the university at first, I had an interview, an entire process with the first investigator, who I later found out was not independent of the university. These people don't even care. They don't even care. If it's they say someone is an independent investigator when that's not even the case, and it can be easily shown that it's not the case, and they don't even care, as if these things aren't even real. Ethics aren't real, even laws, even sometimes laws from the criminal code, or other very serious, legal implications. They act like this doesn't exist. And they've been trained that they can get away with that. So anyway, so after, they didn't get the result that they thought they would get, because these are all intimidation tactics to silence people and all this kind of stuff, and other, other things. And when they didn't get that, out of the first interview, that investigator removed themselves, and then they hired independent investigator Steven Gaon, okay? So then the whole thing was a sham, and that's documented on my YouTube channel along with all the rest of it. And so that's the reason why I'm here 1 year later. There's no evidence of any wrongdoing or reasons for my expulsion. So I'm protesting that, and I'm raising awareness. I'm here, the Human Rights Monument is near the courthouse, right over there. If any of you's watched the Tamara Leach and Barber trials or anything, or you saw any of that kind of stuff going down with the Freedom Convoy, people who had come back to Ottawa 100 times to answer to charges, or this kind of thing, that's where that all goes down over there. And this is a good spot, I think, because there's a lot of cops and there's a lot of lawyers in this area because of the courthouse being right next door. And so then those are Steven Gaon's chums, those are Steven Gaon's colleagues. So I really think that that's some good public awareness that I'm doing over here, where all his chums and colleagues are. So I don't mind my new spot. It's okay, I guess. Oh, and also I have my survivor outfit on today, with my ribbon skirt, although I did forget my my tiara. Oh no, it's good, buddy. Thank you very much, though. So, okay. Press release. So I'm an MMIWG survivor, erased, and the university erased me, and everyone who has known me all these years erased me as if I don't even exist. And I demand full investigative report from ADR Ottawa and St. Paul University. So on the 24th, when I wrote this press release, it was exactly 1 year ago that St. Paul University informed Anishinaabe researcher and MMIWG survivor, missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. That's what MMIWG stands for. Not everybody knows that, I realize. Okay, so they informed me in writing that an independent investigation under its prevention of harassment and discrimination policy had concluded. The letter stated that a deemed complaint of discrimination and psychological harassment against professors and administration was not founded, that a complaint against Hickey was founded, that she had breached confidentiality provisions, and that she was immediately removed from the PhD program and learning community. A notice of trespass under the Ontario Trespass to Property Act followed, barring her indefinitely from university property. Hickey states that she never filed a formal complaint. University professors suggested several times that she do so. She declined, citing her experience that formal complaints against staff and faculty are often frequently treated as retaliatory and can lead to the most serious consequences, including expulsion. So it is my position that the 2 formal administrative complaints launched against me were themselves retaliatory responses to her informal complaints of conflicts of interest, racism, and other discrimination based on prohibited grounds. At no time did I complain of psychological harassment, neither formally nor informally, Hickey said. I did raise serious concerns with the investigator Steven Gaon regarding devaluation of my work, improper complaints in process, conflicts of interest, retaliation, intimidation, racism, and discrimination on other prohibited grounds, erasure of my work and my identity as an Anishinaabe researcher and MMIWG survivor, dehumanization and genocide by erasure, and ontological assault on my existence. So actually that whole thing, one of the assignments near the end of my 2 years of coursework was an article, an academic article that was what I chose to work on from, a selection of just a few things that I could have done for that particular course. So, and that article is on the ontological assault on the existence of erased survivors, an entire article. And, I submitted that to, I think it was the Journal of Criminology. And they sent it back asking for some revisions. And at the time I had considered maybe applying those revisions and resubmitting, but I think I've since changed my mind and I'm probably going to self-publish that article. So I think that'll be good. I think that I'll try to get that done before my next protest so that I can talk about that and maybe translate some of that knowledge. So I have, like I said, I've researched it. I've thought a lot about these things. I don't pull it out of nowhere. And so then I can probably self-publish that article. I'm a researcher, and a writer, and that's what I do. And so then, and I think that'll help people understand that, a little bit more about erasure of survivors and how it can contribute to their demise, their death, the end of their lives, right? And in this case, when it comes to First Nations survivors, of genocide at Indian residential schools, in my case, the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls genocide, that kind of ontological erasure and assault on our existence is genocide, right? And so then I think that I'll probably try to get that self-published and have a knowledge translation ready for my next protest. Okay. So, a complaint of psychological harassment made against me by a vice president on behalf of someone else was not disclosed to me until many weeks after the process had officially begun, and then it was folded into the investigation. So this is the kind of stuff from the get-go, they don't even care about proper procedures, they don't even care about proper process, they don't care about their professional ethics, they don't care about your rights, none of it. They pretend that none of that is real, and as a matter of fact, they really do they really do put it right in your face and like sort of laugh. And it's to make the humiliation, like, you know, and the dehumanization, it's to really like drive that home. They're trying to kill you. Do you understand? They're trying to kill me. And when that same kind of thing is you know, it happens to you, this is the reason why they're trying to kill you. And people do die. People do die over these things. So Hickey had repeatedly requested a copy of the full investigative report, both during the investigation and after the notice of her expulsion on July 24th, 2025. She has never received it. Under Ontario's Ontario's Occupational Health and Safety Act and the university's own policy, they breach their policies all the time, by the way. Parties are entitled to be informed in writing of the results of an investigation and any corrective actions. The July 24th letter provided that summary, but did not provide the full report containing the detailed findings, the evidence considered, or the reasoning. Given the severity of the outcome, permanent expulsion from my doctoral program and an indefinite ban from campus, I believe greater transparency is warranted, Hickey stated. A First Nations student and survivor facing such consequences should be able to understand in concrete detail the basis on which those decisions were made. The continued refusal to release the report leaves me without that information. Approximately 3 weeks into her protest outside the investigator's office last year, just a few blocks over that way, Ottawa Police Detective Albert Stewart contacted Hickey. In a formal email dated August 27, 2025, he advised that he had reviewed a report submitted by Steven Gaon and that, while her right to protest was recognized, the nature and persistence of her actions were approaching the threshold of criminal harassment because they allegedly caused another person to reasonably fear for their safety, which is complete bullshit and everyone knows it. Along with everything else, all the allegations against me are giant piles of steaming BS. And everybody knows that. You have to be stupid. Now I lost my place. Here we go. So Albert Stewart issued a formal warning that continued behavior of that nature could result in further police involvement, including potential charges, which is really poor. And just recently I have noticed, and I have been reposting, that the Ontario Police Service seems to be like doing their real jobs for once. All of a sudden, cracking down on shoplifting, drug dealing, you know, various other things I'm sure that are associated with criminality in the market. There's pimps down there, everything else. There's been some sexual assaults reported. Who knows what that's about? You know, by the way that they're describing it, it's like several in a short time and like almost as if unrelated, not the same perpetrator. So, you know, cracking down on this, cracking down on that. I saw recently, where were they, at the, is it at the airport there? And now they're doing something about human trafficking. Anyways, all of a sudden, the OPS is out here doing their real jobs. So that's curious. So, Hickey notes that she has conducted dozens of peaceful protests in Ottawa on a range of issues, has clearly and repeatedly stated that she opposes violence, has no history of criminality or violence, and that there is no evidence that she poses a risk to anyone's safety. St. Paul University, federated with the University of Ottawa, where the investigator holds a part-time faculty appointment, and the Ottawa Police Service all publicly commit to fairness, equity, diversity, inclusion, addressing institutional and systemic racism, and showing empathy and consideration for the experiences of First Nations people affected by the MMIWG genocide. In Hickey's view, the decision to impose the most severe sanctions available on an Anishinaabe PhD student who raised concerns about racism, erasure, and related issues, while refusing to provide the full investigative report, together with subsequent report to police and the resulting warning, constituted an effort to intimidate and erase an Anishinaabe PhD student and MMIWG survivor, and to silence her self-advocacy because the protest was succeeding in raising public awareness about these issues. Hickey is protesting the hypocrisy and the lack of transparency. She is asking St. Paul University and the investigator to release the full investigative report so that the process and its conclusions can be examined. This is a matter of procedural fairness and accountability in an academic institution, she said. I invite interested Canadians to support the simple principle that when a university imposes the most serious sanctions available against a student, the student should be given the detailed record on which those sanctions rest. So yeah, like I've said before, this is pretty simple stuff, common sense. It's ridiculous to have, like, you know, Steven Gaon ignored my evidence and as if it doesn't exist, even though it's easily available to anybody who wants to see it. And even though I explained to him what they did, of course I have all of that documented. You know, there are no interactions with Mr. Gaon that are not documented. And so then, you know, I mean, it's not ethical, it's not okay. These consequences have serious impact on my life. I've suffered serious damages, including financial damages. And, you know, this kind of thing is happening all over Canada and elsewhere in Western society. And as I've said before, you know, these academia, the legal profession, the medical profession, on and on and on, they have all disposed of their professional ethics. And their regulators are also enforcing this kind of like, I mean, it's basically just silencing of the truth and you know, and condoning all these ideological based sort of like power plays, really, almost like power grabs. And the reason that they lie to the youth, and the reason that they push these ideological like narratives so hard is because, like, people easily fall into that trap. It gives them a sense of false power and control, and some people really do go down that mind control. They fall into that trap, and then in order to, like, maintain that kind of power and control, they're willing to do all kinds of unethical, dirty deeds, and they get so far into it that they feel like they can't turn back. You know, they feel like there's no way out. You know, a lot of them would be liable for, you know, at a minimum, very unethical transgressions, and, you know, at a maximum, very illegal transgressions. And so then it's, you know, they trap you into it. You know, it's like, I often use the word setup. So, and I mean, a lot of this has to do with the mind control as well. They use those mind control techniques to sort of bait you in, and then you know, after, like, basically, you know, like they like the chiefs who announced, you know, like a whole bunch of graves, and then had absolutely no intention of, you know, producing any of the evidence that we need for, like truth and justice. And instead, it's all just a big scam. So they thought they could get away with that, and they were set up by Justin Trudeau to think that. And so then this is sort of the way that it goes. And then later they find out, well, that's actually not real. And then, you know, you can't just get away with, like, all these kinds of things. And then some people start to find out that, you know, like, they start getting calls from, you know, people start tracking them down, like, you know, and then they start to worry about, like, what the real consequences may be. And this is the kind of thing that happens. Like, for example, I've told the story about Ling Gru at NWAC, who I believe was set up, and who no longer lives. You know what I mean? And so then you got to be careful, because this is not, it's not a joke. This is not, like, I mean, when somebody tries to like, you know, offer you things in exchange for conducting unethical acts or illegal acts, and, you know, they somehow convince you that you're going to get away with that and that everybody's doing it, and like this is like law, ethics and laws aren't real or something like that. You know, and then later, you know, and you go along with that, like you're really setting yourself up for something terrible, because they wait for you to conduct the bad acts, and sometimes they collect evidence of it and they hold that over your head later, right? You see what I'm saying? So it's all a trap. And you know, and sometimes they'll you know, sometimes they'll offer you, you know, they'll see if they can leverage some of your vices, right? So like, are you into, you know, sexual, you know, are you something that might be considered unethical, such as an extramarital affair, of course, sex with someone who's underage, or this kind of thing is illegal, you know, and or, you know, or other types of financial arrangements that are not legal, you know, that have to do with all of this fentanyl business, or all of this, you know, sometimes it's like the money laundering that's going on with various assets and all that kind of stuff, getting involved in, for example, the consultancy scams that happen, like, and government is really, like the Trudeau government would just like went overboard on that. And so then, you know, handing out fake contracts for doing fake work, like left, right, and center, and people just getting rich on this kind of stuff, even though they're in conflicts of interest and all that. But none of that matters, remember. Conflicts of interest aren't real, because ethics aren't real, and all this other thing. Like, that stuff is like, you can't fall for that, because there'll be a price to pay. And I think that, you know, people are seeing more and more that, you know, they use it as leverage over you, and it's all a setup, and you know, you don't want to be a part of that. You know, I mean, it's a lot easier to just be a good person. Not like, if you don't want to, I mean, you probably should anyway, because otherwise you may find that you are losing everything that you have, or that you had collected, or that you had accumulated, and not only that, but you can you know, die prematurely, which happens all the time. And you know, and I think that you know, hopefully there's consequences for some of the orchestrators of this sort of stuff, like Justin Trudeau, you know, like some of the bigger players. And I mean, a lot of people call for, you know, lock them up all the time. Like, I mean, I'm not one of those people. Like, in a way, I mean, I think all that kind of stuff is also sort of not real and kind of corrupt as well. But anyway, I mean, I can understand why they want consequences, and why they want justice, and why they want truth, and so do I, you know. But basically, I do this for the benefit of First Nations youth. And what I'm saying is, it's better to just live honestly, live ethically, make your money in an honest way, survive this genocide however you can, you know, that's honest and ethical, because it's not worth it to sell your soul, like, not even a little bit. And then later, I mean, this is the other thing, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to say that, like, okay, look, what I am saying is that, you know, when I was a kid, and like in the 90s and the 80s and the 90s and even the 2000s, you know, things moved so slowly, and it was very painful. It was very painful to wait, knowing that I couldn't come out about like my mission for erased survivors and all that. That was very painful for me every single day for years and years and years on end. You know, but I got through it. And a lot of you might feel like you would like to be out here doing something like acting, like action, you know, and you feel like you can't, and you feel like instead you have to do fake things, because, you know, you're sort of like boxed. They box you into like corners, and you know, you feel like you got to do fake things just to survive, and it's awful, and I get it. But it's not the 80s and the 90s anymore, and things are moving so fast. Like, I mean, that incremental stuff where I knew, like, there'd be days where I'm like, it's going to be 20 years. I'm like, there were days that I'm like, it's going to be, you know, 20, 15 years, you know. There are days where it's like, okay, it's gonna be like another 5 years at least, you know. It's like that, but like, I mean, those days are behind us. Those really, like, the really dragging on, that's behind us. And things are moving so fast now with technology and the way that things are gonna, you know, like we see with AI and some of the other, you know, like a lot of technologies are covered up is another thing too. So like, I mean, if the lid blows off that, like, things could change overnight. And I mean, so like, what I'm saying is that it's not going to be as painful, I don't think, as it used to be. All the waiting for things for developments, because of the pace is so like exponential, and I don't even know, that's probably not even the right word. It's like faster than that. You know what I'm saying? And so then, you know, I really think that, like, we'll see how things shake out, and everybody should just, you know, like, be hopeful that, you know, that the ship is gonna, like, right itself, you know, and then and it won't be so like, because see, my problem and what I'm trying to do for the youth is address this issue where everything is fake and there are predators everywhere. Okay, it's not okay. It's robbing the youth of their like, of a meaningful life. Okay, basically what they've got all set up here, the boomers and then the people of my generation that are involved in this kind of stuff and that have sold their soul, what they're created, like, they've created a society where the youth have no choice but to engage in something that's fake. It's a meaningless life. They can't. There is no pathway to doing anything meaningful with your life out here, and that is very depressing. And it's no wonder that we have suicide epidemics, you know, and that people are depressed, and that there's mental health problems everywhere, and all these people are struggling, you know, with various forms of self-harm and everything else. It's because everything's fake, and there are predators everywhere. Every time you turn around, it's more fake BS, and there's someone else trying to harm you, rape you, everything, you know, steal, harm, all that. Every time you turn around, it's another predator, and it's not okay. Okay, because, like, that's why they can't lose hope, and that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing this, and I'm saying don't lose hope. Okay, because, like, we're working on it. It's our responsibility, Gen X. Okay, the boomers failed. They failed us, and so it's obviously up to us to do we have a duty to the youth, and we have to do it. Okay, and so that's why I'm out here, and that's why I do my self-advocacy, you know, so that, like, to try to give others, like, you know, if they see that I can do it, you know, maybe they could feel like as if, you know, they could also, you know, do some of the hard things that are difficult, you know. And so, yeah, I guess that's really all that I have to say today. Like I said, I'm gonna probably self-publish an article and start talking a little bit more about the philosophy of this and what I mean about an ontological assault on my existence and what that has to do with the genocide. So, you know, that'll be something different for next time, instead of just, you know, saying the same things over and over. I think that's probably good. That's my plan. So, you know, I hope you tune in again. If you want to see, I'll link it below to my YouTube channel if you're interested to know all the awful things that racists and genociders at St. Paul University and ADR Ottawa did to me. You can find that on my YouTube channel, and I'll link that below. And yeah, so that's all. You know, I'm happy to be here doing my self-advocacy. I've got some special constables approaching me. I wonder if they're coming up to talk to me. We'll see. I have my matcha latte. Hi.
Yeah. You're coming for his job.
So they kept going. That's nice. I have my matcha latte, and I'm happy. It's a beautiful day. Happy to be here. Happy to do this. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.